Hello and welcome to the second entry in the EXOR Studios vlog series. My name is Piotr, I am the community manager here at EXOR, and first of all, thank you very much. Thank you for all the responses when it comes to our previous video, all the feedback. It will help us to make the further videos better than the previous one. So, this time we would like to talk about the development of the AI system for the Riftbreaker. The Riftbreaker is a very intense game. It's action-packed, and you are never truly safe when you explore the world of Galatea 37. So even when you are hiding behind the walls of your base, you are never truly safe because there are hordes of alien creatures just trying to get you. Now, spawning thousands of enemies is not a problem for us, but doing it convincingly is a bit of an issue. That's why we spent quite a lot of time developing our Puppet Master system, our thing that keeps everything in place and makes the world come alive and become believable, because that's what it's about. So even if our goal was to have thousands of enemies attack us at the same time, the road began with just a couple of them. Let's take a look at it. So here on this example, the cubes represent the enemies. Everything is wrong here. The scale, you see the walls, they're so much bigger than Mr. Riggs or its first prototype is. And the algorithm is pretty simple. Each of the enemies has 3 ray traces in front of them, and they use them to avoid collisions with other objects and other units. The cubes are trying to locate and reach the player, and here we were trying to use our old creature collision detection system from back in the old days from Zombie Driver, and it was outdated. It was not good enough. So the thing is, we want our creatures to be fast, furious, just like any wild animal, and these were basically zombies. They were slow and clumsy, and that's not at all what we wanted. So we removed all the ray traces and started using separation and cohesion forces. Let's take a look at another example. Here you can see that there are more obstacles, more enemies, and whenever there is a narrowing in their path, they funnel in order to all make their way through the obstacles. And whenever there is more room, they spread out again. That gives us a nicer movement, and that was the first step in what we achieved later. Any game would get pretty boring if there was only one kind of enemy to worry about. And here all the cubes behave just the same way, and it's not good enough. Even in Pac-Man, all the different ghosts had different behaviors, and there is an article I'll link up here. You can read it, it's really good and very interesting. The world of the Riftbreaker is home to various species, and if our system works with one type of creature, it definitely should work with other kinds of creatures as well. We needed to see how everything that we built so far, the math, the physics, the algorithms, how it's going to work with creatures of varying shapes and sizes. Are they going to stick to each other? Are they going to avoid each other? Well, there is only one way to see that. So we introduced different sizes of cubes, different speeds of cubes, and put them to the test. Here in this example, you can see 3 different kinds of cubes. They are all placeholders, but they represent 3 different species of creatures found in Galatea 37. These were the prototypes for our Canopteryx, Arachnoids, and Hamarosaurus. So you can see that the smaller and faster creatures try to find their way around the bigger and slower creatures, while those just try to stay on their course and reach the target. Soon the time came to test the combat abilities of our creatures. we got tired of watching colorful cubes running around, so we replaced the placeholder model with the zombie dog from Zombie Driver. And here in this clip you can see the dog's trying to attack the player. However, there are defensive towers in the way now. The attacks carried out by the monsters and towers are symbolized by the green and red cubes, respectively. This is not only the test for pathfinding, but also for attack priorities. We can order the enemies to attack the player, or the energy structures, or the defensive structures. In this example, the player is the priority, but if there is something on the way, and there is no other way around it, it will get destroyed as well. This is why so often in the Riftbreaker, you can see creatures going after the defensive towers first, or the energy infrastructure first. Each creature has a set of their preferred targets, and if they cannot find an easy path to one, they are just going to chew one out. Everything we showed you up until this point was quite small in scale, and small is not the EXOR way. The EXOR way is Starship Troopers feel. Massive hordes, you don't know where to go, and the only choice is to fight. In order to test how our system worked with creatures of various types, we built a custom map. We put a lot of terrain obstacles in it and spawned different creatures, or different kinds of creatures, in their own spots. Here, the red cubes represent flow fields that push the creatures away. It's a very quick way to solve collision problems. All the creatures have the common goal: destroy the human base. The groups meet each other along the way, and even though they are limited by all the cliffs and pits, they manage to blend together and not block each other's way to the objective. That meant we were on the right track. Even when the creatures are grouped up and they reach a severe bottleneck, here in this case the wall, they still try to wiggle around and find any sort of way to get to the objective. So they don't just stop, they still behave as they should. Now we wanted to reach the fancy level of StarCraft-like movement where everything is smooth, there are no delays, and we tried many things. We looked for solutions basically everywhere. Until one day, one of our programmers, and this is a true story, this is basically how it happened. One day, Blade, one of our programmers, he was playing with his son. They had a little bucket which they filled with small balls, and every time they shook the bucket, all the balls filled the empty spaces within that bucket. That inspired Blade to look into gravity. By combining the unique properties of force of gravity and a really simple soft body simulation, we finally achieved something that was similar to our goal. With proper animations and models added, it suddenly started looking like a real game. As we mentioned earlier, it's important for us to make the creatures behave believably. The last thing we would want is to see a bunch of rabid space dogs standing just doing nothing and looking at each other and the player because they cannot reach their target. That's not good enough. So instead of doing that, the creatures try to fill in the gaps and they behave as if they are controlled by a hive mind. There is only one target, you must reach it by any means necessary. So take a look at this example. You can see the creatures doing exactly that. Mr. Riggs here is indestructible, a cheater. And the creatures try to fill in the gaps, they try to find their way, and it looks like a living cell, to be honest. The system that we have in place can handle the behavior of both aggressive and non-aggressive units in the Riftbreaker. Now, in the last video, I talked about the Quelver. The Quelver is handled by exactly the same AI system as the rest of the creatures. As you know, Quelvers are small, ambient creatures, and they don't attack, they just hang around the map, do their own thing, until there are corpses to eat, then they go and eat. Now, in order not to put too big of a strain on the CPU resources, Quelvers have a couple of limits. They spawn only outside of combat, so whenever there is something big happening, like an attack wave, Quelvers stop spawning, and instead all the resources can go towards calculating the movement of that attack wave. Another performance optimization is that Quelvers won't spawn within a set radius of another Quelver. So if there is one creature, there has to be a set gap between this one and the potential spawn place of the other one. So for example, if you have one Quelver, you need to have a circle of at least 8 meters, let's say, in radius for the game to spawn another one. So this way we avoid bug geysers, although we could make some. The little bugs use the same grouping mechanic as the Canoptrix, as the Arachnoids, as the Hemeroceroses, but they use it for a slightly different reason. Of course, they are going to group together, trying to reach their target, and they are going to group around their target. However, the target is slightly different. It's the corpses. Yeah, of course, it's the corpses. So Quelvers are an important element in the Galatian food chain, and they eat everything that's left of creatures once they are no more. There is a certain threshold of the aggressive creature count. So if the number of aggressive creatures is above the threshold, the Quelvers will not spawn. If it's below, the Quelvers will start spawning again. So every time you finish mopping up a big wave of creatures, these little bugs will spawn, they will group around the corpses and just clean everything up. So now that we had all these systems in place and we knew that they worked, it was time to roll out the heavy artillery. So here we were, with a complete system that could handle aggressive and non-aggressive units, that could navigate all their way to their objective around the map that is not predetermined by any means, and it was time to roll out the heavy guns. So we just put together a test map and let all the hell break loose. So what do you think? Did we manage to capture this Starship Troopers feeling? What other aspects of game development would you like to learn? Leave a comment here or join our Discord and talk to us directly, and we might make a vlog on it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, because that is it for today. Make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more Riftbreaker vlogs in the coming weeks. Also remember that we stream every Tuesday on Mixer and every Thursday on Twitch. It happens at 3 p.m. Central European Summertime. You are more than welcome to join and, well, destroy me with the interactive voting options. And of course, you can also ask all the questions that you like, and you might even get a serious answer. Yes, that's how far I am willing to go. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching and see you next time.